Chapter 9, The Guilty Party.
To the best of my ability, it is. I wanted to wind up in a parking lot where there was ample opportunity for the blonde assassin to pull out from somewhere and for Heller to deal with him without a lot of people around. This is the rest of the action climax, after all, with Heller finally catching up with the man who shot Jake Lingle, the backup at the Cermak hit, the killer of Dipper Cooney, all the work of the same single assassin. Heller's state of mind is a weird combination of frazzled and focused. Everything's coming to a head now. Spoiler alert. If you haven't yet heard episode 9 of True Noir, unless you've read True Detective, you need to move along. Nothing to see here. Well, actually everything to see. You've been warned. As fact-based as True Noir and its source novel are, as true to history as I've tried to be, we're now fully in the private eye phase of our mystery story. The settings remain true, and Little New York Campagna, for example, is as real as Frank Nitti. Campagna was often described in press coverage, and even in some supposedly nonfiction articles and books, as having been imported from New York to be Frank Nitti's bodyguard. Campagna, like Capone and Nitti, started out in New York and came to Chicago. Actually, Campagna came to Illinois before Capone and Nitti, robbed a bank, served time, and returned to New York. In the mid-1920s, Capone summoned Campagna to Chicago as a bodyguard, although Louis rose through the ranks quickly. He became Frank Nitti's second in command, as I discuss in my non-Heller novel, Road to Purgatory, in which Campagna is a major player. Nitti apparently really was staying at his father-in-law's apartment, Dr. Ranga, probably because of the mob boss's weakened condition after the assassination attempt by the two Harrys. So Heller bearding the lion in his den is accurate, if ill-advised. By the way, that both Nitti and Cermak suffered from stomach trouble after Nitti's shooting is an irony that hasn't been noted elsewhere that I know of. Nate standing up to Campagna and another Nitti bodyguard reveals both an increased toughness and danger in our protagonist after all he's been through, particularly getting pushed off the Skyride Tower and having a brutal showdown with a blonde assassin. Keep in mind that he's responding to violent acts, the Nitti shooting, the Ted Newberry hit, and yes, the assassination of Anton Cermak that really happened. I'll interrupt to again mention the three writers who most influenced the creation of Nathan Heller. From Dashiell Hammett's Sam Spade came Heller's situational ethics, the need to create your own rules in a corrupt world. From Raymond Chandler's Philip Marlowe comes Heller's voice, the humor, the observation, the American parlance. From Mickey Spillane's Mike Hammer comes the protagonist, a hero who can get really pissed off when you try to kill him. After all, Heller is riding around talking to a corpse in the writer's seat of the dead man's car. This kind of crazed behavior is not something you'll find in Hammond or Chandler. It creates, I hope, a real sense of danger when Heller dares to confront the most powerful mob boss in Chicago. I'll make a confession. The scene in this episode, Nate and Nitti, and one between Nate and Marianne in the next episode were vague in my mind as I approached them. I admit to being intimidated at this point when I was writing True Detective. The novel depended on these two scenes working. This was new territory for me. I'd had several other short crime novels and mysteries published, but nothing of this length or complexity. If these two scenes didn't pay off, the book would be unsatisfying and possibly unmarketable. So I was Nate Heller in this scene, confronting Frank Nitti, but way in over my head. Nitti led us both through the scene, and I have to say I think he did a good job. He became, in my view anyway, one of the most interesting and significant characters in the Nathan Heller series, which by now is edging up to 20 novels and a dozen short stories. This is where research comes in, perhaps surprisingly. Reading about a real-life figure like Frank Nitti, really reading in depth, gives me the information I need to let a character called Frank Nitti grow organically. Too often in historical fiction, famous people, historical figures, are presented as caricatures of their public personas. I've worked at not doing that. So I look at Nitti as a man who loves his wife and son and is recovering from a near-fatal episode, thanks to the two Harrys, and that helps him come alive and surprise both Heller and me. I had no idea that Nitti would go on in several more books to be a key participant in Heller's life, and oddly, kind of a mentor, even a father figure. Heller's relationship led the way for how I handled Nitti in Road to Perdition, and especially its sequel, Road to Purgatory. In that novel, there's an even stronger surrogate father and son relationship between Nitti and Michael O'Sullivan Jr., the boy from Road to Perdition grown up. I frankly find Nitti a much more interesting figure than Capone. This is not to say Heller isn't afraid of Frank Nitti. He very much is. But Heller comes to understand, and that's revealed here by Nitti trying to protect Nate from a bitter truth about something Nate did, that Nitti is on several levels his friend, even his protector. That Nitti is paying Heller back for not aiding and abetting the two Harrys in the assassination attempt, calling for an ambulance at the crime scene, and telling the truth on the witness stand. I think the audience for True Noir and its source novel comes to understand that Frank Nitti is the best man in his world, and maybe Nate Heller is headed toward being the best man in his.